Welcome to this week's episode of the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. If you're watching this, you will see we've got a slightly different setup. If you're listening to this, highly recommend that you switch over to YouTube so you can reference and see what I'm talking about. So we're currently in the Fitness Marketing Agency office. We've got Luke over there on a coaching call. Come with me. We've got a number of team members working from home today, but the majority are in. It's a working office. We haven't cleaned it up or anything specifically for this quick intro. So the reason that I'm doing this intro is we are close to 1 year now of publishing every single week a new episode on the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. And as you know, normally we interview a fitness marketing agency client or an industry expert, but because we're coming up to the 1 year mark, we thought we'd change things around a little bit, and we wanted to give you some live footage from a presentation that we recently gave at an industry event called PerformX. So we were headline sponsors of this industry event. We were giving a presentation on all things sales. In fact, it was Charlie and Luke on stage, and they didn't have any PowerPoints. They literally just had a whiteboard, and then they did Q&A with the audience, and they talked all things scripts, sales objections, sales mentality, mindset. This session was super valuable for everyone who was in attendance at PerformX, so we decided to grab the footage and release it as a podcast. But to get the most out of this episode, I highly recommend that you switch over to YouTube and watch it on YouTube so you can see the event in its full flow. And then lastly, at Fitness Marketing Agency, we are a marketing company, but we've never ever marketed inside of the podcast, and we've never asked you to subscribe either. So I saw this on the Stephen Bartlett podcast recently. They flashed up how many people watch their podcast versus how many people subscribe or don't, and so we had a look at some of those stats, and it's the same for us. We know many of you are watching on YouTube, but not many of you are subscribing, so all I'm asking for is a slight favor: hit subscribe and enjoy this week's episode.
Just out of curiosity, who here is a gym owner? Cool. PT or coach? Okay, cool. So mostly gym owners, which is great. Perfect. So first of all, where I want to start is, like, who here feels a bit icky about sales, a bit sleazy about sales? Cool. Probably about half the people who put their hands up in terms of a gym owner. So I think that's the first thing we really want to tackle, because if you have a poor belief around sales, you're not going to ever do a good job at sales. And what I would say here, to the same people that raised their hand to saying they felt a bit icky about it, out of those people, please put your hand up again if you feel that your product or service can positively impact people's lives. Cool. So the same amount of hands, if not a little bit more. And what I would say to all of those people is that you have the ability to change someone's life positively, and not many industries can say that. So when you are on a sales call and you know you can actually help this person, I would say it's selfish not to be good at sales. Because so many people have internal beliefs of why they can't do this or why they can't do this. They tell themselves a story every single day of why they're not good enough to take something on. And as a salesperson, it's about understanding their wants and needs, their problems, and helping them, guide them to making the best decision for them and their life. And anything, Luke, you want to add on to that sleazy side of sales in terms of people feeling sleazy?
Yeah, I think it's natural because humans, we hate social conflict, right? And that goes all the way back through evolution. And the problem with your mindset is, you know, the potential of a sales call is someone says no to you. And that fear of being rejected is what is stopping you from transforming someone's life. There's always like a cheesy thing I say to people, and I heard this from someone else, but if I told you to go into Costa and ordering your coffee and ask for like a 10% discount, most people just wouldn't have the courage or confidence to do that, right? I might even feel a bit silly doing it. And it's just because of that social conflict and that fear of being rejected. But if you're in a passion-led industry and you truly believe your coaching service is the thing that's finally going to change someone's life, if you let that fear of rejection override their possibility of transformation, that's the definition of being selfish in my eyes. And I don't think any of you are in the coaching industry to be selfish. I think that's fair to say, right? So it's really important you get over that limiting barrier, and hopefully what we teach you in the next 40 minutes or so will empower you to go away and do that, which in turn empowers you to go away and help more people with their health and fitness.
Cool. So let's kind of lay the foundations and talk about the framework here. So out of a show of hands, who here does like a consultation process for people that sign up to their gym? Cool. Quite a few hands. Who here does a one-call close? Good stuff. Who here has like no sales process at all? Anybody? No. Anyone do anything different to what I've just? Any other different options at all? Cool. So we've got most people in the room doing a consultation process to sign up. Now, the data shows us, and again, we work with 400 fitness businesses across the UK and the world, but the most efficient way to close sales and increase your conversion rate and save time is the one call close. And what this process is quite simple. You have a number of inquiries, you will speak to them on the phone, and within a 10 to 15 minute conversation, you will take payment for an initial membership or front end offer or something like that. And there's a lot of skepticisms when it comes to the one call close. People don't want to do it. People think they need that consultation in place. But once you get over that belief, that's going to be a game changer for your business. To those people that run a consultation process, is it fair to say sometimes you have people that you're booking 10 consultations and 5 show up? Can anyone cool, a few hands there. So that's one issue in terms of you're booking people in and you're kind of losing your time. And then Luke, in terms of consultation versus one call close, it'd be great to hear from you.
Yeah, I think, well, when I joined FMA and I entered into the fitness space, I don't mean any offense to anyone in the room, but I was quite flabbergasted at how old school a lot of the processes and practices were around sales, considering a lot of you may have bought mentorship and potentially FMA, potentially not FMA, 2, 3, 4, 5 grand, and someone's closed you on like a 30, 40 minute Zoom call and you've just parted ways with money, or maybe you've bought a holiday and 10 years ago you used to go into, if some of you like me, maybe you went into like a Thomas Cook shop, you look through the brochure, you're like, where are we going to go? And you take all these brochures home and you go back. Now you just go on a website, right? And you just purchase. Some people are buying cars now completely digitally on websites, whereas the fitness industry still remains stuck in this bubble of people need to come into my gym to have a look around, to buy. And the data shows, one, the industry is just moving way quicker than that. There's not really a net gain in doing that. There's a time loss, because even if they show up, a consultation takes 35, 45 minutes if you're optimal, and you could fit, well, I could fit 3 sales in that time, easy. So when you start really looking at scaling your business, whether you 1 site, 2 sites, eventually that model is just going to hit a ceiling in terms of time efficiency as well. But like I said, every other industry in terms of a coaching-led business, like FMA or other mentors that you're looking at, is moving on at a rapid speed in terms of how they onboard clients into their business. And I think one thing people often overlook in the fitness industry, and I'm sure you've all had a client like this who, and I don't mean any disrespect when I say this, but a lot of people, they didn't wake up overweight, right? They didn't just wake up one morning and go, what the fuck? It's like 3, 4, 5 years of constantly perhaps picking the wrong thing, right? And every single day looking at themselves saying, I'm not too happy with how I look, I need to change, and constantly, unfortunately, not taking action, right? So then I have to get up, get dressed, put my makeup on, not me personally, find where can I park, where's the gym, who's going to greet me, who's going to be there. All of these overriding doubts in my head as someone who typically lacks a lot of confidence, the amount of pressure you're putting me through just to walk through the door is overwhelming. So people would actually prefer to buy over the phone with you in a much more comfortable setting. Because, yeah, like I said, that 4 years of me putting off my health and fitness, let's say you speak to me today, what is it, Friday, you book me in for Monday, that's just, 2.5 days of me constantly telling myself, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And then you expect me to show up, and it's just not going to happen, right? From what we see anyway.
And so I'm going to ask you a question and kind of and pretend to be one of, someone skeptical in the audience who's run a consultation process, and ask you a question framed from them, which would be, yeah, but my consultation process is really valuable, and that it needs to happen before I sign someone up over the phone.
Yeah, waffle. No, I'm joking. I think you do the consultation because there are certain things you would look for in a gym when purchasing, because you're way more sophisticated. Nobody is walking around, Brenda, who's 45, she's not walking around going, I really hope that gym has an assault bike. I really hope they show me, no one cares, right? Am I getting to my result? What level of coaching am I going to receive from you? Do I buy into you? But I think we're so fixated on, they need to see my product. No, they don't. When was the last time you booked a holiday and you did a walk around the plane just to make sure? You don't, right? When was the last time you went to the dentist or the doctor and can I just check your tools over just to make sure they're safe? You don't, right? I have a perception of where I want to get from your service, just get me there. So yeah, I just think it's outdated. I don't think, unless someone has just moved to your area and they're like a Hyrox, athlete, and they are super sophisticated in fitness, and maybe they're looking for specific equipment. We have some clients that, they run outdoor boot camps and they have 2 kettlebells and some battle ropes, right? And they're selling at a very high rate. And again, that just goes to show it's not about the internal, your facility, but it's about how you perceive the result someone's going to get from you, which again, hopefully I'll teach you some things today.
And if your service is less than £1,000 a month, you can do this over the phone on a one-call close. Something I'd also add in that, and I said it in the panel earlier, is that your goal is to create the remove all barriers from a purchase. And so let's say you're speaking to someone on the phone and then you go to put them in for a consultation. That person on the other end of the phone is at their kind of peak buyer's state right now. And if they would actually, the question is, would they buy at that point on the phone? And the answer is yes. However, what you then do is you book them in for an appointment 2 or 3 days later, and then life gets in the way. They have a bad day at work, they have an argument with a partner, a bill comes in, and all of a sudden, that consultation comes to the back of the mind rather than at the front where it was on that phone call. So when you're running the consultation process, are you blocking sales from actually happening just from the format and framework? And the answer is a lot of the time, yes. And of course, if someone over the phone doesn't want to pay and they want to come in first, then let's do that process. Be flexible around the prospect, but the key takeaway from everyone here is the one-call close is the kind of most superior way from the data that we have gathered to be able to get more sales, increase your conversion rate. And you should all leave here thinking about implementing that and actually doing that into your gym business. So that's the format of what we would recommend doing. There's nothing wrong with the consultation. It's not that it doesn't work, but the best way we see is that one-call close. So let's kind of move on and kind of talk about the psychology of why people buy. And I'd like to ask you, where do you think that most people go wrong in their sales process? If there's one area of that sales process that takes place, whether it is a consultation, whether it is a one-call close, where do most people go wrong?
Yeah, I think fundamentally people are just selling the wrong thing. I don't think it's you're not handling, a lot of people aren't handling their objections right, for example, but I think before you even get on the phone, most of you have already lost, if that makes sense. It's just your mindset and mentality around sales. And I think if you did have a potential customer who could be open, and I'll show you this in a second, a lot of it is just very surface level and we're just not diving in. And that's one, lack of education, but just a lot of mindset as well. So it'd be great to show that in a minute. Yeah,
sure. And you said people are too surface level on the sales process. In the sales process, it would be good to kind of dive in and say what you mean by that.
Yeah, cool. So not going to make anyone uncomfortable. I just need some interaction, if that's cool.
I'll throw this box to some people.
So what would you say? Just again, this is just generic, right? The most common problem people come to you to solve. They want to lose weight. So that's a goal, right? So the common problem there, I'm going to assume, please do correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a fitness facility owner, is that they're overweight. Is that fair to say? Overweight? So this is what most people sell their product based off. Okay, is you're overweight, I can help you. And I think that this is the most surface level sales process, sales point and solution to a problem that isn't actually the problem. So this is the exercise I want to do. So I walk into your gym, I'm overweight. What's a common problem I might be facing in life?
Oh, me.
Insecurity. Okay. Okay, so I'm overweight and I'm a bit insecure, and I walk into your gym. What's a common problem I might be facing in my life? Time poor. Did someone say? Yeah, I would say that's kind of here. So I'm overweight, I'm insecure, I'm time poor, I walk into your gym. What's a common problem I might be facing in my life? Can't find a partner.
Low self-esteem.
Low self-esteem? Okay, I can't write that quick. Right, can't find a partner. I've also got awful handwriting, by the way, I'm sorry. Low self-esteem? What was the last one? No energy for your children. So we'll just stop there to prove the point. I think so many people in the fitness industry are selling this and not selling this. I think if I spoke to two online coaches or gym owners and one said, hey, I can help you lose weight, or one said, hey, I can help you find a partner, which one do you think I'm going to buy every single time? It's the one that says, I'm going to help you find a partner. It's not ever something I've struggled with, look at me. But you see the point, right? So this is where I would say this is a £7 a week problem. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what a lot of these like meal replacement shakes charge in the industry, right? And I can promise you, you will never win this battle. They have more money than you, they have more testimonials, they have more success stories, they have more followers on Instagram, they are more than you in every way when it comes to a business sense, except for the level of coaching and service you provide at a deeper level. You cannot lose this game if you truly believe your product, as Charlie got you to raise your hands earlier, is at that highest level. So for me, every single sales scenario, and to be honest, whether you do consultation or over the phone, you should be, and I don't want to go too far ahead, you should be hinging your service on, Brenda, I will help you find a partner, because Brenda is much more willing to pay. I'm sure some of you have seen people in the fitness industry charge 3, 4, 5K for a 90-day program, and you may be thinking, well, I'm not charging that. How is that possible? I actually provide a better service. They're charging way more than me. It's because they're fixing a very different problem than you are. Okay? The price in which you get paid for your service is based on the level of the problem you fix, not the service you provide. Does that make sense? And if I have a green pen, on the opposite of these is the potential outcome of working with you. So I imagine that would be loads of energy for kids. Okay. Can find partner, or if you wanted to, I guess. High self-esteem. Confident. Time portal, we'll leave that. And then ultimately up here, we'll just put lost weight. So the first thing I look for when anyone I'm coaching on sales in the fitness industry is when I'm listening to their calls back, am I hearing these every single call or person you're speaking to around your service? And if the answer is no, you've already lost, because you're trying to fix a problem that you are way too expensive for. If you're charging over £25 a month for your service, you've already priced yourself out of this market. Is this making sense? So this is what I mean when I say you're being very surface level in terms of your sales.
Yeah, and so this process would take place at the start of the sales process. There's kind of like a number of elements, number of boxes you need to tick before you move on to the next one. You have your intro, your info gathering, your pitch, and then your close, and potentially your objections. So this would fall into the category of the info gathering stage, and really this is probably the biggest area where most people fail in the sales process, and they don't even realize it. They do a really poor info gathering process. They then proceed to a pitch that's way too long and focused all around themselves as an individual rather than the prospect, and then they're scratching their heads while they get an objection, and then they don't know what to do. When you do this section correctly, the info gathering stage, then it makes everything else much, much easier, and your conversion rate's going to go massively up. But I suppose a question that some people may be thinking is obviously, how do we, in a conversation, get someone to open up without being too pushy, right? Because, just being like, oh, what, so, like, to say, like, how's your energy with your kids, like, first question, might be a little bit, personal. So how do we get to that level, essentially?
Yeah, so I'll walk everyone through, like, if you know me, some of you know me, I'm pretty simple. KISS is like my biggest acronym, keep it simple, stupid. They really emphasize the stupid part with me. So I'm going to give you my framework, okay? I promise you if you just follow it, it will really improve the way you make sales, okay? But there's another level to this that not many, if to be honest, anyone I hear does, okay? Because what I think you're really selling, and some people in the fitness industry have actually clicked onto this, but in a slightly different way, is behavioral change. So let's say I'm this person over here, I'm overweight, I'm insecure, I've got low self-esteem. Who am I? What are my beliefs? Someone shout anything out. What do I believe? Who am I? What are my habits? Yeah, okay, I'm looking for, so let me give you all an example, but yes, that would fall under here. Do I make decisions the right way around my health and fitness? Does that fair? Okay, so I lack knowledge. Again, excuse my handwriting and spelling. I'm indecisive. I'm slow. Okay, I self-sabotage. And all of these things, right? So these are the mindsets that have created this scenario. Does that make sense? You will never, if you think about this person here, is it likely they're going to object you? I need to think about it. The answer is yes, right? Because you have a history of self-sabotage. You have a history of being indecisive. That's why you are where you are. So not only do I need to sell you on this, but I also need to show you who you could become, okay? Which would be, I feel like I'm artist up here, okay? Decisive by nature. I don't know how you spell that. Okay, fast to react. Whatever, make positive decisions. So what you also need to do on your calls, which I'll show you in a second, is not just find out the pain and the pleasure, which especially pain is quite an uncomfortable word, right? You need to find out who they are that has led them here, but who they need to become in order to achieve these things, because this version of you isn't ready for this. Okay, so I'm going to give you a very simple framework to do this. I'm just going to try and draw a straight line down there. Looks straight enough. So the show of hands, who here already emphasizes open questions on their sales calls? Cool. Some hands, not enough hands. So an open question, in short, must start with who, what, where, when, why, how. Nothing else. Okay? Because, has anyone here got children? Cool. So I have two that are 8 and 4, and my eldest, just to give you an example of why open questions are really powerful, is there have been so many psychological studies that show force, command, and control is the worst way to get someone to act, okay? For example, if you got to one of your children, unless they're just better behaved than mine, and I say, can you go brush your teeth? Most of the time I'm met with, no, I don't want to do it, okay? Even though I'm trying to push you to do something positive, okay? Or if you have a friend that smokes and you say, you should stop smoking, most of the time they react with, well, I want to keep smoking, even though you're trying to push them to something positive, okay? So what we learn from that is that I cannot force you to act with your health and fitness. You should act because you're overweight. It's never going to work, okay? What we've learned is that the best way to, and I've used the word manipulate. Most people think this is a bad word, but I think it's a great word. The best way I can manipulate you and motivate you to take action is to use my questions in a way which allows you to come up with the idea of change. Going back to the brushing teeth analogy, when I got to my son and I say, what happens if you don't brush your teeth? He says, they fall out. I say, how do you stop your teeth falling out? He says, I should brush my teeth. I go, Claire, who's a clever boy? And he goes and brushes his teeth. Okay, so I have manipulated him and motivated him to take action towards a positive change. Does that make sense? So you need to do this on your sales calls. Okay, these also stop people saying yes or no to you. Okay, I'd write these words down if I were you, and then I'd write these words down on another, near them. Okay, so these are the 4 simplest, there's more, but these are the 4 simplest human beliefs that need to be met in order for someone's transformation to make sense in their head. Okay, so you've got pain, pleasure, urgency, and cost. Okay, does this mean anything to anyone? Has anyone seen this before? Great. That means I can be first. So pain is obviously what we just went through, right? All of the red words, okay? My first, this is like, I think sequential is the right word I'm looking for. You follow these in a very specific order, okay? So the first thing I do is I build up as much pain as in your life as possible. I know that sounds harsh. The reason I do pain first is because I don't like talking about it. I just rather get it out of the way quick because it's not a pleasant experience, right? I just rather, let's just speak about what's going on, and let's just get that out of the way.
And just to briefly interject before you move on, is that might be some people here thinking like, oh, I don't want to bring up someone's pain. That sounds like not a great thing to do. Like that doesn't sit well with me. But if you go to the doctors, they need to find out what's wrong to be able to provide the solution. And when you truly understand the problem and their motivations and why and what's going on, then you can lead them to the outcome that they want most. So we really need to actually find out what's going on and get under the bonnet to be able to help someone the best we can. Because if we just have these surface level reasons, we don't truly understand the reasons why they actually want to make a change in the first place. So it's so important to know. So if you are looking at that word and thinking, oh, that doesn't sit right with me, you change it in your mind to problem. It's the same thing, but we've got to actually find what the real problem is rather than the surface level thing that they initially say.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's where you just have to get comfortable with your choice of being in the fitness industry, right? Like if you had a sales call from someone that sells life insurance, they wouldn't go, actually, I don't want to speak to you about the potential of you dying, like I quit. Right? This is the industry you've picked, and these are the problems that you yourself have qualified in to solve. Right? That was your choice. So I definitely say you just need to get comfortable with that. I'm going to give you a framework in a second that helps you with this as well. The second is pleasure. And by that, I mean the green words, right? So this is like your current, and this is your future. Okay, so some people call it pit to peak, some people say Hell Island and paradise, whatever you want to call it, right? Where are you now that's really bad, and where do you want to be that's so great? And the wider I can make that gap, the more, yes, you'll pay to facilitate that transformation, but the longer and the better of a client you'll be because you're truly bought into the transformation at hand. Okay, if you've just got a client that wants to, I just want to lose a bit of weight, they won't stick with you. Okay, urgency. Okay, this is something that's so underrated, but loads of people miss in, whether it's a consultation, whatever. Because I know you've been on this journey for 2, 3, 4, 5, some people a lifetime, right, of inaction, okay? This may have been the transformation at hand for the last 4 years, but you've never acted on it, okay? So this might sound harsh, but I don't trust you to act on it, okay? So I need to ask questions around why do you feel like now, finally, you're ready to make a change? Okay, and in a question like that, I'm going to swim towards you because my answer is going to be, it has to be now. My life needs this. I'm so ready for this. And just by saying that, you can hear how I'm selling myself and buying from you, right? So urgency is really important. And cost, I don't mean finances. I say this to everyone, and it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but you are not losing sales because you're too expensive. No one in this room, okay? I promise you, people are not buying from you because your price is too much. They are not buying from you because you've missed something, okay? Because a lot of you perhaps wanted a house, right? But who here bought their house outright? No one. So what, that's it? Some of you maybe rent, but a lot of you would have got a mortgage. Okay, so you found a way. Maybe some of you have a car. Not many people buy their car outright. You find a way, okay? But you're not willing to find a way to massively transform your life. So hopefully that shows you how important it is to do this and why you're missing sales, right? The last one is cost. And by cost, I mean cost of inaction. So I've been happy the last 4 years to not act. So I need to understand that the future, without working with you, looks worse than the future with you. Does that make sense? And there's a really great quote. I always mess it up, and it's something like the change only occurs when the cost of staying the same outweighs the cost of change. Something like that, right? Does that make sense? So you need to be asking questions on your sales calls around if, let's say you don't start working with me and I bump into you, Mary, 6 months down the line on the street. Who do you think we meet? What does she look like? Oh, she's probably less happy. Right, and how would you feel knowing that's a possibility? Oh, not great, I have to do something now. Again, you can see the way I'm driving that action, okay? So here's a really quick framework, and did everyone get that written down, by the way, that wanted to? Cool, we're not going back. So these are not literally 4 questions you ask, but I'd just please, even if you're not writing notes, just take a picture of this. I will get out the way in a second, don't worry. Okay, so these are like headlines. Okay, these are not literal 4 questions you ask on your sales call, but you would explore what are your goals. This relates to like pain and pleasure. Why are they important? This links into other human beliefs we haven't discussed. If you follow these 4 on your sales calls, okay, and ask 3, 4, 5 questions under each of these headlines, okay, I promise you people will get to the end of the call and they'll want to buy from you. They won't object, okay? You will still get objections, but people will actually want to buy from you, okay? This isn't like a flex, but last year I did roughly 1.3 million in front-end sales, okay? In a coaching program, this is the exact framework I follow on every single call. I do not deviate, and I do not move on from 1 to 2 until 1's been nailed in. I do not move from 2 to 3 until I really got the why is this important. I just do not move on, just like a robot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I promise you, you just follow these on your sales calls, okay, and you will see a dramatic increase in your conversion rate. Is anyone here in the room out of interest listening to this thinking this is exactly what I already do on my calls? Or is one person, 2, yeah. So yeah, Ricky at the back. Ricky. Just by show of hands, is this really helpful for anyone? Is this just by show of hands, just so I know I'm on the right line? Oh, amazing. Cool. So
I think also, so there's 4 questions here, but it's not just ask these 4 questions and then go. So you would ask that first question, and based on what they say, you would then find more questions to kind of go in on that subject. So these are the 4 subjects that you were discussing, but it's not just like, what are your goals? And then they say whatever it is, and then they go, and then you go, well, why are they important to you? Like, there's more of a back and forth in between these 4 points that will kind of really dig and find out what is going on to then get to that process.
Oh, what time did you want to do Q&A?
How long have we got?
Like 10 minutes?
Okay, cool. So yeah, we could like, we do sales days at the office where we do go in all day at sales and run through the exact process. We've got about, I think we've got about 15 minutes or so. So that's kind of info gathering. Does anyone have any questions? We've got more we can go on, but is there a particular subject that people want to go in? We've got some hands here, so let me just throw the box and we'll just riff and go from there.
I can't watch.
Cool. Who's first? Oh, I'm really nervous. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
It was the catch that let us down there. That was a great throw.
Sorry, I wanted to ask a question on that.
Please.
So if it's not a gym, but if it's a yoga / Pilates or a dance studio, would you ask the same question?
Of course. Selling anything is the exact same. And although when we go back to, where I had the pleasures and the pains in red, there'll just be different words for you. But what can happen is other industries or business owners will see that and say, oh, my industry doesn't solve problems that deep. And when I go through that exercise, at the end of it, they're always like, oh, I didn't realize. And a great example of this is, like, I'm working with an accountant, and he's like, well, I just help people with like VAT and things like that. And then a few layers in, we're talking about how a business owner has no time for his family because he's stressing about VAT and tax and things like that. And it's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that's what I could be selling my service on, right? So you just need to figure out with your studio, what are the deeper whys, the pains, the pleasures, and then the exact same formula will work, for sure.
Awesome. Who else has a question? I'll pass it this time. Oh, then we'll go to the back after.
Hi.
Hi.
Prior to the sales call, do you pre-frame it to condition them to get them to think about various pain points or any of these, or is it literally just that sales call that you go into?
Yeah, so I break a sales call down into multiple steps. The first would actually be before this. It's just the intro step. So sales and dating are really similar, and I always give a cheesy analogy. Is like most salespeople position themselves as like the desperate guy, like, please let me buy you a drink, please, please, please. And it like just completely creepy, right? And it really puts people off. So I like to frame the intro as like, well, actually, this sounds really weird, I'm the hot girl at the bar, and you want me. That's so weird, by the way, for those of you that don't know me. So I say in my intro, like, hey, it's Luke from Luke Robinson Personal Training. Going to ask you some questions about, your life, just to see if we're a good fit, because if you're not a good fit for me, I can send you somewhere else. But if you are, maybe I can tell you about our program. But anyway, let's dive in, like, what are your goals? And then I just go straight in. So I'm not necessarily, some people go really, like a 2-minute intro, but I just like to keep it 10, 20 seconds, just a quick bit of professional rapport. I don't care about the weather, where you are, what football team you support, or what your dog's name is. Let's just get into this. Because they're on the call to speak about themselves and themselves only. So in answer to your question, yeah, I do a bit of an intro, but this is the most important part to get to.
It's really helpful. But prior to that, so in between from the lead gen to the scheduling the call, is there any in-between phase?
I think if you're scheduling calls, you can really use things like automation and you know, emails, text follow-ups, whatever you're using like Calendly, to at least prepare people to the idea they're about to have a call, and say things like, you know, please make sure you're in a quiet space, you know, bring some notes around your health and fitness for us to explore, because we'll be exploring that. So most people, I don't think, need to go into that extent when selling fitness, because it's not a complex sales cycle, in my opinion. It's quite simple. But yeah, if you have that facility and you're doing it, the more you can do, the better. And it ensures that no-show rate is in your favor as well. Like if you just book calls and the next touch point is the call, the no-show rate would be horrendous, in my opinion.
I think something really vital that was just touched upon there, but you did, is like the intro of the call when you first actually call them and they pick up. Like just a few key mistakes that people make that I think would be great for you to run through. So we'll both run through. So, you know, if you call them and I say, hi, is that Luke? You know, that's like a big no-no, because you know who it is. They've given you their name, email, phone number. So don't ask who it is. Don't ask if it's a good time to speak. And it'd be good just to run through that, and also what the intro should look like briefly, and then we'll go back to the Q&A, because that process alone will massively help.
Yeah. I think maybe I'm too harsh with how I do sales, but you know, like if you're sending emails and you're like, I get them, hey Luke, hope you're well, and I'm like, you don't hope I'm well. You want to sell me something. You couldn't care, right? Or if you're walking down the street and someone says, hi, how are you? You know, oh, how are you? Next time someone says that, say I'm awful. Watch them go, oh shit, and they're gone, right? You don't actually care how I am. So I just cut all of that pleasantry out, because it's just so generic. And yeah, I hear people say like, you know, oh, hi, is that Charlie? And it's like maybe 1% of people say, well, yeah, you've got my number. It's like, of course it's Charlie, right? And it's an opportunity for them to say, you're trying to sell me PPI, or, you know, this sounds salesy, scammy, oh, I want to get off the phone. Another one that I really hate is like, do you have 5 minutes to speak? It's like, I don't know who's doing a sales call in 5 minutes. It's like, well, do you get to 5 minutes and go, oh, can I call you tomorrow? We'll finish. Like, just don't do any of that. So for me, I break the intro down into like 3 or 4 steps. Like, I introduce myself. Hey, it's Luke from, you know, hey Charlie, it's Luke from Luke Robinson Personal Training. I just state the reason for the call. The reason for the call is you've applied to my 6-week, you know, personal training program. I state what I'm going to do. Just need to find out if you're a good fit for the program or not. So I'm going to ask you some questions to find out who you are. If we can help, I'll tell you more, but if we can't, I'll send you somewhere else. And then I just use my first open question, like, what's your biggest goal right now with your health and fitness? And then I just go straight in. So, you know, hey Charlie, it's Luke from Luke Robinson Personal Training. Got your application here. You applied to our 6-week program. Need to ask you some questions to find out whether you're actually a good fit for my gym or not. Because if you're not, I may need to send you somewhere else. But if you are, I'll tell you about our program. So look, let's jump right in. What's your biggest challenges right now, Charlie, with your health and fitness? And he wants to speak about himself. He's the only person that matters on the call. So the quicker I get to that position of him being able to speak and answer a really good open question, the more he's going to warm to me and build rapport to me. Okay? If you haven't read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's a great book to explain this psychology. But you've all got a friend, right, that comes up to you and says, like, you got a holiday booked, and before you can even say anything, they go, yeah, well, I do. And you're like, fucking hell. You know, they go, oh, yeah, how's work? Oh, yeah, my job's great. And they're asking you to speak about themselves, right? And they're the worst, based on psychology, they're the worst person for you to want to spend time with. But the best person that psychology shows for you to spend time with is the one that says, how's your family? Oh, you know, oh, yeah, kids are great. Things like, oh, why are your kids great? And they just constantly ask you questions about you. And, you know, oh, that person, you know, oh, they listen, they care about my problems. They're a really good friend. That's how you need to position yourself on the sales call, in my opinion. I kind of waffled there, sorry.
Yeah, I think it was just really great to run through that process, because I guarantee so many people are saying, have you got a few, is it okay to talk, or have you got a minute, and you're just shutting down potential sales calls. And the reality is they picked up the phone, so they do have time to call. but people initially have their guard up when it comes to sales. They're very skeptical, and we have like a knee-jerk reaction to say no to people. But if we can get in there and just state what we're doing and go in with that first question being in the info gathering stage, you're going to have far more conversations leading to more sales. So let's continue with the Q&A. I saw we had a few hands at the back there. So can you throw the box? You've got the, I'll just pass it. Cool, so we'll go over here.
I'm Charlie, and I've been trying to make some sales calls recently. I've been running into trouble with the objection handling.
Sure.
And I think the mistake I'm making is letting people get off the phone. But when it's something that I feel irrational keeping them on the phone to solve, how do you best manage that and objections in general, please?
Which objection are you struggling with, mate?
So the spouse one comes up a lot of like, oh, let me just check with my spouse. And I don't really want to go, I'll just wait until he gets home, or anything like that.
Yeah.
So... but I've also let people off the phone and not gone back.
May I inquire as to what you're saying now when someone says, I need to go speak to my partner?
I say, sounds great, I'll call you again tomorrow, something like that.
Cool. So here's a scenario for you. What happens if I don't like your program? Is me going to speak to my partner going to push me any closer to wanting to do it? The answer is no, right? So what most people do is let's say you're driving, right? And you come up to a roadblock the way you want to go. You don't just go home, right, and go, oh, yeah, okay, that's it. You find another way around, right? You can't go straight through it. So I first need to find out, is there a way around? Like, do you actually want to do my program? So, for example, if someone says, I need to speak to my partner, just say, yeah, sure. I normally make like a cheesy joke. I say, yeah, look, if I can make you single for a day, like I won't, but let's say I could, how do you actually feel about the program? Like, are you 100% bought in? Because if they go, no, not really, there's no point you speaking to your partner. I say, hey, what have I done wrong? And now we're completely away from your partner. But most people will say, yeah, I'm really bought into the program. It sounds really good. And then I just say, like, look, if you knew that your partner would 100% support you in doing this, you already had their permission. So what I've done is I've first removed the objection, and now I bring the objection back in and pretend it's already solved. So I say, look, okay, great, sounds like you're bought in. So if you knew you already had your partner's permission and he or she really wanted you to do this, would you sign up with me today? Is that how confident you are? And if they say yes, I say, look, no worries. As I said, we are a small group personal training facility. We've got 10 spaces left. Why don't we just put a deposit down to secure your spot? If for whatever reason you don't want to do this anymore or your partner says no, I'll just send you all of your money back. You won't hear from me again, but at least you've got your spot secured. How does that sound? But what I haven't done is I haven't given them a financial amount for the deposit. It's the biggest mistake people make, because I want you to buy into the idea of securing your spot, not how much it costs to secure it. So if they go, yeah, I'll happily put a deposit, that could be £1, right? They've committed. It doesn't matter about the amount. But they may not be happy doing that, in which case you have kind of you can't close everyone on the phone. And then I would look at a follow-up.
Another way to frame that very beginning bit, so where Luke said, if I can make you single for a day, if you feel like you wouldn't want to say it in that way, Luke's got a certain type of personality. If you're more bland like me, what you probably want to say is just like, yeah, sure, no problem at all. Partner aside, just for one moment, how do you feel about this process and everything going there? And then they reaffirm whether they like it or not, and you get them to buy in from a certainty point of view, and then exactly what Luke said. And to be like, great, well, look, we can put down a deposit, secure a space, you can speak to your partner. If for any reason he doesn't want to support you in becoming healthier, fitter, X, Y, and Z, I'll just give you a full refund. Like, sound fair enough? Yeah. And then kind of go into that process there.
Yeah. I think with objections, people don't expect them, and then they get caught off guard, and they're not practiced. So just like you just got to roll, you just got to drill it. It's like you don't do one squat, and you're like, fucking look at my quads, right? You just got to keep squatting. So just keep role-playing it, but stop telling yourself, this is for everyone, stop telling yourself you don't like objections. Get objections and go, yes, and I promise you, you'll deal with them better. Just get to the end of your call and go, I really hope you object me, like, please. And then when they do, you're almost excited, and then you attack it with a very different level of authority, and rather than being like, oh.
Yeah, and the worst thing is that you change your tonality when you get the objection, because you've been like cool as a cucumber throughout the whole process, and then you just like melt like a puddle. Like, as soon as you get the objection, you're like, oh yeah, shortings pizza tomorrow. Like, you just want to stay calm, cool, collected, and have the exact same tonality as you did beforehand. Otherwise, it comes across not very well, essentially.
So just for my sense of clarity, best practice would be sort of like hypothetically remove the objection and then bring it back in solved, and address it. And that's for any kind of objection that comes up. Like,
you know what's great for you is I have a lead magnet which gives you the script. So come and see me after.
So there's a bunch of flyers on the there, and if you scan them, we will send you in the mail our 10 most common objections and how to overcome them, and it just has the written script there. But does anyone else have any questions? Cool. Let's chuck the box to you. Whatever hand you saw, chuck the box there.
I really like this script. It's very similar to what I use already, but in person. I'm wondering if doing this over the phone would potentially create a lot more buyer's remorse once once the problem has been removed from the very forefront of the mind, to go back down to daily basis things.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yes, that definitely can happen. And then that's not a sales problem. Because even if you book me in for a consultation and I don't buy, that's still going to be a problem, right?
I think when somebody's in for a consultation, obviously they've got more of the nuts and bolts of the value right in front of them.
So the remorse happens at different stages. The remorse from the consultation happens before the consultation in terms of, will I actually show up? But then if that is the case, the first thing I look at is not the sales process, but what happens after. Are they getting instantly messaged on WhatsApp? Are we sending them like resources, like a video, hey, this is where you're going to park, check us out on Instagram, here's a few things to do before you come. Yeah. And also the time length in which you are processing the payment and then booking their first session. Yeah. Like, hey, can you come in, you mentioned about the evening, it's 10 a.m., can you come in tonight? Yeah. Because then that window of buyer's remorse is just squashed.
Yeah, because if they're coming in 2 weeks later, there's a high chance that they might not want to do it. They're coming in the next day. What email are they receiving as soon as they sign up? What social proof does it have? There's a famous saying, you don't stop buying flowers for your partner once you get married. And it's the same with your customers. You don't stop marketing to them and reinforcing why you were the best decision once they've paid. You're still going through that process consistently. Every month you're selling to your members why you're the best solution for them. And, another logical solution is obviously do the consultation after they pay, right? So just book them in and get that intro process done. And just get it done as soon as possible there. Cool. Who else has got questions?
Sorry, I wanted to ask about ClassPass and GymPass. How do you recommend competing with them? I mean, they are lowballing, and...
Yeah, so, we have clients that, for instance, have like a health club. It's quite a premium price, and a JD Gyms came in, they're selling £5 memberships. Like, how do I compete? And for me, it's you just go in the other direction and you just go much higher. Like, you can never compete with people on price, especially these bigger companies, but you can compete on community, connection, personalized service. Like, big chains that charge very little can't compete with that connection. Like, it's really, really hard for them to do it. So I would just go in the other direction there. For sure. Yeah,
for sure. One big problem I think people have is charging too little is way bigger of a problem than charging too much. Charging too much can be the best thing you ever do for your business. Like, if I held up 2 watches and said, this one's 10 grand, this one's 100 quid, which one do you think's better? The one that's 10 grand, right? Even though you don't know anything about the the watches. So the perception of value as something that's higher price in your potential buyers just dramatically goes up. So if you're seeing a trend of people in your area charge a lower price, it gives you a great opportunity to say, hey, we're Rolex, and people just instantly think you're a much better service for doing it.
Nice. Guys, so I see a few hands. Unfortunately, I'm getting the 0 minutes sign over there, so we are out of time. However, we'll be hanging around to answer any questions you have, so just come up to us afterwards and we'll just happy to have a chat with you. But guys, thank you so much for coming. Thanks for listening to the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you can catch future episodes.